After Sarah ate dinner with her mom and did her homework, she showered and got ready for Eleanor to put her to sleep one more time. But as she snuggled under the covers, a disturbing thought occurred to her. Eleanor? Yes, Sarah. She was already sitting beside Sarah's bed. What will my mom think if I sat down to eat breakfast in the morning and I have a totally different face? Eleanor sat down on the bed. It is a good question, Sarah. But she won't notice. Not really. She may think you look especially rested, or well, she won't notice that your plain face has been replaced by a beautiful one. Mothers always think their children are beautiful, and when your mother looks at you, she has always been great beauty. Oh, okay, Sarah said, feeling relaxed again. No wonder her mother didn't understand her problems. She thought her daughter was already beautiful. I'm ready then. Eleanor touched Sarah's heart pendant. And you remember that I always had to wear it and can never ever take it off. Yes, I remember. Good. Eleanor stroked Sarah's hair and sang her one more time. Just like before, Sarah felt the changes before she saw them. As soon as she woke, she reached up and touched her nose. She felt not a potato like bulb, but a pert little point. She raised her hands over the sides of her face and felt clearly defined cheekbones. She touched her lips and found them plumber than before. She hopped out of bed and take a look. It was amazing. The person looking back at Sarah was a totally different person than before. Eleanor was right. It was shocking, but it was a good kind of shock. Everything she had hated about her appearance was gone and had been replaced by absolute perfection. Her eyes were wide in a deeper blue and fringed with long, sooty lashes. Her eyebrows were delicate arches. Her nose was tiny and perfectly straight, and her lips were a pink Cupid's bow. Her hair, while still brown, was fuller and shinier and fell into pretty soft waves. She looked herself up and down it. She smiled at herself with her straight white teeth. Beautiful, she was the total package. She surveyed the clothes in her closet. None of them seemed worthy of her new beauty. Maybe when mom took her shopping for bras, they could also pick up a few outfits. After a lot of deliberation, she finally chose a red dress she bought with a woman she could never find the courage to wear. Now, though, she reserved to be the center of attention. School was a total new experience. She could feel everybody's eyes on her, guys and girls alike. When she looked at the beautifuls, who also appeared to be wearing red today, they looked back at her, not with disdain, but with interest. At lunch, she mouthed hi at Abby, then walked straight to where the beautifuls were sitting. This time, she didn't sit right down on their table, but made a show of casual wandering past it. Hey, new girl, Lydia called. You want to sit with us? She wasn't remotely a new girl in the school, but she was a new girl in her looks. Sure, thanks, she said. She tried to sound casual, like it didn't make any difference to whether she sat with them or with anybody else. But inside, she was so excited she was turning cartwheels. All the beautifuls were eating salads just like she was. So, Lydia said, what's your name? Sarah. She had hoped Sarah was a name they found acceptable. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't like Hilda or Bertha or anything. I'm Lydia. Lydia tossed her lustrous blonde hair. She was so pretty, pretty enough to be a model. She fits right in the pictures on the walls of Sarah's room. And this is Jillian, Tabitha, and Emma. She they needed no introduction, of course, but Sarah did say hi, like she had never seen them before. So, Lydia said, who's your dress by? Sarah had watched enough fashion shows on TV to know Lydia was asking about the designer. It's from Saks Fifth Avenue, she said. It was true. The label of the dress did read Saks Fifth Avenue. However, Sarah and her mom had bought it at a local thrift store. Her mom was so excited when they found it. She loved thrifting. How often do you get to New York? Lydia asked. Once or twice a year, Sarah lied. She had been to New York once when she was 11. She and her mom went to see a Broadway show, ridden a ferry to the Statue of Liberty, and gone up to the Empire State Building. They had done no shopping in fancy stores. The only clothing Sarah had bought was an I Love New York t shirt at a souvenir shop. A few washings had worn it as thin as a tissue paper, but she still slept in it sometimes. So, Sarah, Emma said, regarding her with doe-like brown eyes, what do your mom and dad do for a living? Sarah tried to not bristle visibly at the word dad. Mom's a social worker, and dad, before her dad had left, Sarah and her mom, he had been a long distance truck driver. Now she wasn't even sure what he did or where he lived. He moved a lot, changed girlfriends a lot. He called her on Christmas and her birthday. He's a lawyer. The Beautifuls nodded their approval. One more question. This came from Jillian, the redhead with the cat-like green eyes. Do you have a boyfriend? Sarah felt her face heat up. No, not at the moment. Well, Jillian said, leaning forward. Is there a boy you like? Sarah knew her face had to be as red as her dress. Yes. Jillian smiled. And his name is? Sarah looked around to make sure he wasn't nearby. Mason Blair, she had whispered. So, Lydia said, looking Sarah over, don't follow us around like a puppy dog or anything. But if you want to sit with us at lunch, then sit. On Sunday afternoons, we go to the mall and try on clothes and makeup. Maybe get a Ferrero. It's lame, but it's something to do. This sounds so boring, she yawned theatrically. So boring, Sarah agreed, but inside she was buzzing with excitement. Lydia added, we'll hang out a little and see how things go. If it works out, maybe you can go out for cheerleader next year. Consider this a trial period. Sarah left the cafeteria smiling to herself. Abby caught up to her. It looked like you were having some kind of intense job interview back there, Abby said. She was wearing gray sweatpants with a bulky purple sweater that had nothing to do to show off her shape. Yeah, kind of. They invited me to hang out though, so I passed, and I passed the guest, I guess. She couldn't stop herself from smiling. Abby raised an eyebrow. And those were the kind of friends you want? The kind that makes you pass the test? They're cool, Abby. They know all about fashion and makeup and guys. They're shallow, Sarah. They're as shallow as a rainbow puddle. No, I take that back. They're so shallow they make a rainbow look like the ocean. Sarah shook her head. She loved Abby, she really did, but why did she have to be so judgmental? But they rule the school, and that's how it works. It's the beautiful people who get what they want. She looked at Abby's gorgeous brown complexion and her stroking hazel eyes. You could be beautiful too, Abby. You'd be the prettiest girl in the school if you lost the glasses and braids and bought some clothes that weren't so baggy. If I didn't wear my glasses, I'd be walking into walls, Abby said with a little edge in her voice. I like my braids and my baggy clothes, especially the sweater. It's cozy. She shrugged her shoulders. I guess I just like myself the way I am. Sorry if I'm not fancy or fashionable enough for you. I'm not like the cheerleaders or all the models and pop stars whose pictures you have plastered all over your room. But you know what? I'm a nice person and I don't judge people on how they look or how much money they have. And I don't have to give a person a pop quiz to decide if I'll let them hang out with me or not. Abby looked at Sarah's face searchingly. You have changed, Sarah, and not for the better. Abby turned her back on Sarah and marched down the hall. Sarah knew Abby was a little mad at her, but she also knew an apology and a hug would fix things once she had the time to cool down. After the bell, walking toward the school bus, Sarah became suddenly aware of a presence beside her. Hi, a male voice said. She turned to see Mason Blair, looking perfect in a blue shirt that brought out the color of his eyes. Oh, hi. So Lydia said you guys were talking about me in the cafeteria today. Well, Sarah fought the urge to run. Say if you don't have anything else to do, don't you want to go over to the Brown Cow and have a come with me? Sarah smiled. She could hardly believe her good luck today. I don't have anything else to do. The Brown Cow was basically a little concrete block shed that sold soft serve ice cream and milkshakes. It was right across the street from school, but Sarah usually resists the temptation of stopping there since she had always been worried about her weight. She stood next to Mason at the counter where the same bored seeming old woman always took orders. Chocolate, vanilla, or swirl? He asked her. Swirl, she said, making a move to open her purse. No, Mason said, putting up his hand. I got it. It's a cheap date. I can handle it. Thanks. He said, date. It was a real date. Sarah's first. They sat across from each other at a picnic table. Mason attacked his cone with gusto, but Sarah took tiny licks. She didn't want to eat like a pig in front of Mason, and she was afraid of the ice cream dropping on her dress and making her look like a slob, even with her self consciousness, though. She had to admit the cold, creamy treat was delicious. I haven't had ice cream in ages, she said. Why is that? Mason said. Watching your weight? Sarah nodded. No need to worry about that, Mason said. You look great. It's funny. You've been going to the school a long time, right? I don't know. I only just noticed you. Sarah felt herself blushing. You noticed me and I ran into you with that salad, right? Mason looked over at her with his dark, lashed ocean blue eyes. I didn't notice you when the way I should have. I clearly needed to pay better attention. Me too, Sarah said. So I don't keep plowing into people with trays of salad. Mason laughed, showing those gorgeous white teeth. Sarah was amazed by how confident her new looks made her. She could eat ice cream with a cute guy and make jokes with him. The old Sarah would have been much too shy. Not that a cute guy would have asked the old Mrs. Mix and Match Sarah out for ice cream in the first place. Once they finished their cones, Mason said, Hey, is your house pretty close? I can walk you back if you like. Sarah felt a twinge of anxiety. Mason's dad was a doctor and his mom was a successful real estate agent whose face was plastered on billboards. His family probably lived in a mansion on the fancy side of town. She wasn't ready for him to walk with her past the garbage dump to the plain little two-bedroom bungalow she shared with her living room from a paycheck to paycheck single mom. I actually have to run a couple of errands this afternoon. Maybe another time? Sure, okay. Was it Sarah's imagination, or did he look kind of disappointed? He looked down at his shoes, then back up at Sarah. Hey, maybe we can go out for real sometime. Pizza and a movie, maybe? Sarah was pretty sure her heart had just turned a backflip. I like that. His expression brightened. How about this Saturday night, if you're free, of course? Sarah fought the urge to laugh. Had there been a Saturday night when she wasn't free? All the same, she didn't want to sound too eager. I think so, yeah. Great, we'll plan it then. Sarah couldn't wait for Eleanor to wake up so she could tell her about her day. Finally, after what seemed like ages, Eleanor pivoted her waist and lifted her arms and said, Hello, Sarah. Sarah ran up to Eleanor and took both of her hands and hers. Oh, Eleanor, I just had the best day of my life. Eleanor turned her head. Tell me about it, Sarah. Sarah flopped down on the bed and propped herself up on the pillow. I hardly know where to start. The beautifuls let me sit at their table at lunch, and they invite me to meet them at the mall on Sunday. Eleanor nodded. That is good news, Sarah. Sarah leaned forward and hugged the old Freddy Fazbear teddy bear on her bed. And then Miss and Blair took me for ice cream after school and asked me to dinner and a movie on Saturday. That's very exciting. Eleanor stepped closer to Sarah, bent at the waist, and touched Sarah's cheek. Is he a handsome boy, Sarah? Sarah nodded. She couldn't stop smiling. Yes, very. Are you happy, Sarah? Sarah laughed and repeated, Yes, very. Haven't I given you everything you wished for? Sarah couldn't think of a single other wish. She was beautiful and perfect, and her life was beautiful and perfect to match. Yes, you have. Then I have everything I wished for too, Eleanor said. But remember, even though all your wishes are granted, the necklace still has to stay on. You can never take it off. I remember, Sarah said. She was always tempted to ask Eleanor what would happen if she took it off, but part of her was afraid to know the answer. Making you happy makes me happy, Sarah, Eleanor said. Eleanor felt tears welling in her newly beautiful blue eyes. She knew she never had a better friend than Eleanor. On Saturday, Sarah was a ball of nervous energy. From the moment she woke up, all she could think was about the date. At breakfast, she was too nervous to eat much, even though Mom had made French toast, Sarah's favorite. "You'll drive me to the pizza place and drop me at 6, right?" she said. "Of course," Mom said, flipping through the newspaper. "And you'll just drop me, right? You won't walk with me or anything?" Mom smiled. "I promise I will not endanger your relationship by letting your new Beau catch a glimpse of any of my horrible face." Sarah laughed. "It's not that, Mime. It's not that, Mom. You're really pretty, actually. It's just that the looks of a little kiddish when your mom comes to you, you know?" "I know," Mom said, sipping her coffee. "I was 14 too, once, believe it or not." "And did you ride your dinosaur when you went out on dates?" Sarah asked. "Sometimes," Mom said, "but usually I just invite the boy over to hang out in the family cave." She reached over and tousled Sarah's hair. "Don't be too much of a smart aleck, or I might decide I'm too old and just rep to drive you tonight. Have you figured out what you're going to wear?" At this question, Sarah let out a dramatic moan. "I can't decide. I mean, it's just pizza and a movie, so I don't want to dress like it's the most important event of my life. But at the same time, how do I how I look is really important. So wear jeans and a nice shirt. You're a beautiful girl, Sarah. You'll look great in whatever you choose." "Thanks, Mom." She remembered what Eleanor had said about mothers always thinking their children were beautiful. She knew that her mom would have said the same thing to her even before she got Eleanor's help. When Sarah's mom pulled into the parking lot of the Pizza Puzzle, Sarah's stomach was so full of butterflies that she couldn't imagine where to be in room for pizza. She knew she looked nice, though it was some comfort. "Text me when the movie's over and I'll get you," Mom said. She reached over and squeezed Sarah's hand. "And have fun." "I'll try," Sarah said. Until recently, the idea of going out with Mason Blair would have been as realistic as the idea of her going out with a major pop star. It had been a fantasy, something she dreamed of but never imagined would come true. Why was she so nervous when this was something she wanted for so long? Maybe that's what was making her nervous. The fact that she wanted so much. But when she walked through the doorway of the Pizza Palazzo and saw Mason waiting for her in the front of the hostess station, she immediately felt more at ease. He stood up and flashed his gorgeous smile. "Hi, you look great," he said. "Thanks." She did think the corset's top she'd chosen went well with her eyes. "You do too." He was dressed casually in a hoodie and a t-shirt for some video game, but he would look great in anything. After they got settled at one of the red leather booths with matching checked tablecloths, Mason picked up a menu and said, "So, what kind of pizza person are you? Thin crust, thick crust, any favorite toppings?" "I'm a flexible pizza person," Sarah said, despite her earlier nervousness. She was actually starting to feel hungry. "I pretty much just like pizza in general, except for one thing: no pineapple on pizza ever." "Agreed," Mason said, laughing. "Pineapple on pizza is an abomination. It should be illegal." "I'm glad we agree on that," Sarah said. "If we hadn't, I probably would have just had to walk out of here and abandon you. I would have totally deserved it," Mason said. "People who eat pineapple on pizza deserve to be alone." They agreed on a thin crust pepperoni and mushroom pizza, and they chatted comfortably about their families and their hobbies as they ate. Mason had a lot of interests, and Sarah realized she probably didn't have enough of them. Before Eleanor, she had spent too much of her free time worrying about her appearance. Now that the problem was solved, she needed to branch out a little, listen to more music, read more books, maybe take up yoga or swimming. As a little kid, Sarah had loved swimming, but once she hit middle school, she was too self conscious to let anybody see her in a swimsuit. By the time she and Mason walked next door to the movie theater, Sarah felt like they were getting to know each other pretty well. He wasn't just cute, he was nice and funny too. And in the dark theater, when he reached over and took her hand in his, it was the most perfect moment of a perfect night. When she got back home and was putting on her nightgown, Eleanor quietly strode up behind her and put her hand on her shoulder. Sarah was startled but quickly recovered. Hi, Eleanor, she said. Hello, Sarah. How's your date? She asked. Sarah felt a smile spreading on her face just from thinking about it. It was great, she said. He's gorgeous, but I also really like him as a person, you know. He asked me if I wanted to go to the basketball game with him next week. I'm not interested in basketball, but I'm definitely interested in him, so I'll go. Eleanor laughed her tiny giggle. So tonight, was it everything you hoped it would be? Sarah smiled at her robotic friend. It was even better. I'm happy, you're happy, Eleanor said, then moved back to her spot in the corner. Good night, Sarah. In the morning, Sarah found her mom in the laundry room. Can you drive me to the mall to meet my friends this afternoon? She asked. Mom looked up from unloading the dryer and smiled. You're quite the social butterfly this weekend. What time are you supposed to meet them? She folded a towel and set it on the laundry basket. They just said in the afternoon, Sarah said. That's pretty vague, isn't it? Mom said, folding another towel. I don't know. The way they said it, it was kind of felt like I just should know what they meant. She was so shocked that to be accepted, even on a trial period by the Beautifuls, that she was afraid to ask questions. You and your friends expect you to be psychic? Mom asked. You don't like my new friends, do you? Sarah said. I don't know your new friends, Sarah. I just know they were girls who wouldn't give you the time of day before, and now they're suddenly inviting you to hang out with them. It's kind of strange. I mean, what's changed? I've changed, Sarah thought. Just look at me. But she said, maybe they just finally decide I'm a likable person. Yeah, but what took them so long? Mom said. You know what friend of yours I like? Abby. She's smart and she's kind and she's straightforward. You always know where you were staying with a person like Abby. Sarah didn't want to tell her mom that she and Abby weren't speaking to each other currently. So instead, she said, 2 o'clock. How about you take me to the mall at 2 o'clock? Okay, Mom tossed a towel at her. Now help me fold. Once Sarah got dropped off at the mall, she realized that Lydia hadn't said anything about where to meet them either. The mall wasn't that large, but it was big enough to turn searching for them into a fairly difficult game of hide and seek. She could text Lydia, she supposed, but it kind of felt like in order to be accepted by the group. She had to figure out the way she did things without making a nuisance of herself. If she had only accepted into the group on a trial period, she didn't want to make any missteps. One false move, and she would be back to eating lunch at the loser table. After a few moments of thought, she decided to head to Dillard's, the mall's most expensive department store. The Beautifuls definitely wouldn't be hanging out somewhere cheap. Her intuition was good. She found them at the front of the store in the cosmetics section, trying on lipsticks. Sarah, you made it, Lydia said, giving her a Christmas smile. As soon as Lydia smiled at her, the other girls smiled too. Hi, Sarah said, smiling back. She really had made it, hadn't she? And not just to the mall. She had great looks, a gorgeous, nice boyfriend, and the friendship of the most beautiful girls in the school. She could never have predicted that her life would be this good. Oh, sir, you should try on this lipstick, Jillian said, holding out a golden tube. It's pink with sparkles. It will look perfect with your skin tone. Sarah took the tube, leaned over the makeup counter mirror, and smoothed on the lipstick. It was pretty on her. It matched the rosy nail polish that never seemed to fade from her fingers and toes. It looks like lipstick a princess will wear, she said, studying her reflection with pleasure. It really does, Tabitha said, opening up a tube of a different color. Her Royal Highness, Princess Sarah. You should totally get it, Lydia said, looking at her approvingly. Sarah tried to suddenly check the price on the lipstick packaging. $40. She hoped her shock didn't show. That was more than she had paid for the outfit she was wearing. But then again, she probably couldn't buy lipstick in a thrift store. I'll think about it, she said. Oh, go on, Emma said. Treat yourself. I want to browse around a little more first, Sarah said, since I just got here. She didn't want to admit that the only money she had in her purse was enough to cover a frozen yogurt and a soda. The beautifuls, however, bought lipsticks and eyeshadows and blush and brow stencils, wiping out wads of cash or their parents' credit cards. After they finished at the makeup counter, they went to look at formal gowns because, as Lydia puts it, prom's just around the corner. Isn't it just for juniors and seniors? Sarah asked. It's for juniors and seniors and their dates, Lydia said. So if you can find a junior or senior to take you, then it's just around the corner. She nudged Sarah. Too bad Mason's not older. Yeah, Sarah said, but she didn't mean it. She liked Mason the age he was. Besides, she wasn't sure he was ready to date a guy. The dresses really were beautiful. They were the color of jewels, amethyst, sapphire, ruby, emerald. Some were sparkly, others were satin, smooth and shiny, and others were translucent with lace and tulle. They took turns trying on dresses and modeling in them in front of a mirror and taking pictures of one another with their phones. Other Another half an hour of watching them with a sour expression on her face. A sales lady came over and asked, "Were you girls actually interested in buying anything, or are you just playing dress up?" They ditched the dresses and fled the formal wear department giggling. I don't think that sales lazy like this very much, Jillian said as they walked out of the store. Who cares? Lydia said, laughing. She doesn't get to judge me. She just works in the store. She makes minimum wage if she's lucky. I bet she can't even afford to buy the clothes she sells. They went to the food court and ate frozen yogurts and laughed at how naughty they have been. Do you girls intend to buy anything, or are you just playing dress up? Lydia said over and over again, mimicking the sales lady. They all laughed, and Sarah laughed right along with them, even though she might thought they might have been a little hard on the sales lady who was just trying to do her job. Jillian and Emma had left the dresses they tried on in crumbling piles on the dressing room floor. Now the sales lady probably had to clean up after them. But who is she to criticize the beautifuls? It was an honor that they invited her out with them. It was glamorous and exciting, like she was a guest in a reality TV show, no matter what they did or said. She was happy just to be included. Yesterday, her date with Mason had been perfect, and now she got to be out with the beautifuls. How could she ever express her gratitude to Eleanor? Nothing she could say had ever been enough. That night, when Eleanor sprang to life, Sarah jumped up and hugged the robot's hard little body. Thank you, Eleanor. Thank you for a perfect weekend. You're welcome, Sarah. Eleanor hugged her back, and as always, the sensation was odd. There was no softness in her hug. It's the least I could do. You have given me so much. Sarah settled down happily to sleep, but her rest was disturbed by a strange dream. She was on a date with Mason, sitting in the movie theater, but when he reached over to hold her hand, it was not his hand he grasped, but Eleanor's tiny, white, metallic, and cold, the same hand she had grabbed to pull the robot girl out of the trunk car. When she turned to look at Mason in the next seat next to her, he had changed into Eleanor. Eleanor smiled, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth. In the dream, Miss Sarah screamed. She opened her eyes to find Eleanor standing over her bed, her head lowered, staring at her with her blank green eyes. Sarah gasped. Did I make a noise in my sleep? No, Sarah. Sarah looked at Eleanor, who was standing so close to her bed that she was touching it. Then, why are you standing over my bed? Didn't you know, Sarah? Eleanor said, reaching out to brush back Sarah's hair. I do this every night. I watch over you. I keep you safe. Maybe it was because of the dream, but for some reason, Sarah didn't feel like letting Eleanor touch her. Safe from what? Sarah asked. Safe from danger. Any danger. I want to protect you, Sarah. Okay, thanks, I guess. She appreciated Eleanor's concern, appreciated everything Eleanor had done for her, but still, it was creepy for someone to watch you when you didn't know you were being watched, and even if they were doing so with the best of intentions. I can't stand by the door if it makes you comfortable, Sarah, Eleanor said. Yeah, that'll be great. Sarah was pretty sure she couldn't fall back to sleep with Eleanor sitting right over her like that. Eleanor strolled over to the door and stood guard here. Good night, Sarah. Sleep well. Good night, Eleanor. Sarah didn't sleep well. She didn't know what, but something was wrong. In the cafeteria, Sarah stood in line with the other beautifuls as they waited to empty their trays. Lydia had texted the night before saying they'd all be wearing their skinny jeans today, so Sarah was wearing hers too. She thought the jeans and a few tops and a couple of pairs of cute shoes when her mom had taken her shopping the other week. They also bought a few bras that would do her new figure justice. Can you believe what she's wearing? The dress is like a preschooler, Lydia said, like a preschooler from a poor family, Tabitha added. With horror, Sarah realized the girl they were criticizing was Abby, who was emptying her tray behind them. True, Abby was wearing pink overalls, so the preschooler comment wasn't too far off the mark, but it seemed mean to reduce somebody's whole value as a person to the clothes she wore. That's Abby, Sarah heard herself saying. She is really nice. She's been my friend since kindergarten. She almost found herself saying best friend, but she stopped herself in time. Yeah, Lydia said, laughing. But you've bought new clothes since kindergarten, and she hasn't. The beautifuls all laughed too. Sarah tried for a smile, but she couldn't quite manage it. When it was Sarah's turn to dump her tray, she stepped on something slippery near the trash can. Her new shoes were cute, but they haven't much traction. The fall felt like it took forever, but she was sure it was only a matter of seconds when she was flat on the floor back right in front of the whole school. Sarah, that was hilarious, Lydia said. What a klutz. She was doubled over laughing. All the beautifuls were laughing along with her, saying, Did you see her go down? And she hit the floor like a ton of bricks, and how embarrassing. In Sarah's dazed state, she couldn't really tell which girl was saying what. Their voices sounded distant and distorted, almost as if Sarah was trying to hear them underwater. Sarah tried to pull herself up, but something strange was happening to her body. She heard weird clashing and clanging sounds and couldn't figure out where they were coming from. It didn't make any sense, but they felt like they were coming from inside of her. She was shaking and jerking, and she couldn't make her body move the way it usually did. Her body was no longer under her control. She was scared. Had she hurt herself badly? Should somebody call her mom, call an ambulance? And why were her new friends not helping her? They were still laughing, still joking about how stupid she looked and how funny it was. Then the beautiful's laughter was replaced by screams. As if from a great distance, Sarah heard Lydia saying, What's happening to her? I don't understand. I don't know, one of the other girls said. Somebody do something. Get a teacher quick, another one said. A terrible thought occurred to Sarah. She put her hand to her throat. The necklace Eleanor gave her, the necklace that was never ever to be taken off, was gone. She must have knocked it off during the fall. She turned her head and saw on the floor just a little more than arm's length away. She had to get it back. A hand reached down to help her. Sarah looked up to see that the hand belonged to Abby. She took it and allowed herself to be pulled up into an awkward standing position. When Sarah looked down at her body, she saw the reason for the girl's screams. Her body was changing. From the waist down, she was no longer a flesh and blood girl, but a jumbled collection of gears and bicycle spokes and hubcaps, rusted metal odds and ends, cast off useless parts that belong in a wrecking yard. She locked eyes with Abby and saw her friend's horror as to what she was and what she had become. I had to go, Sarah said. Her voice sounded different, metallic, and harsh. Abby held out the necklace. You dropped this, she said. Tears sparkled in her eyes. Thank you, Abby. You're a good friend, Sarah said. She didn't say anything to the beautifuls, who had all backed away from her and were whispering among themselves. Sarah grabbed the pendant and ran as fast as her new shambling and makeshift metal legs could carry her out of the cafeteria and out of the school. Home. She had to get home. Eleanor would know what to do and would know how to help her. Sarah was still changing. Her torso was hardening, and when she ran, she made squeaky noises like a door with hinges that needed oiling. She tried to fasten the necklace around her neck again, but her fingers had grown too stiff to manage the clasp. As she hurried down the sidewalk with a clattering, stumbling gait, people stopped to stare at her. Drivers slowed down their cars to gawk. People didn't look sympathetic or even confused. They looked scared. She see she was a monster, like something that had been created by a mad scientist in a lab. It was only a matter of time until villagers started chasing her with pitchforks and torches. She felt like crying, but apparently the kind of thing that she was becoming was incapable of producing tears. Maybe tears will make her rust even more. Her joints were getting stiffer and stiffer, and it was growing harder and harder to run. But she had to get home. Eleanor was the only one who could help her. Finally, after what seemed like hours, she reached her house. Somehow, she managed to work the key into the door. She clinked and clanged through the living room and down the hall, calling, Eleanor! Eleanor! Her voice was a terrible metallic scraping. Eleanor was not in her usual corner of Sarah's room. Sarah reached the closet looking under the bed, opening the chest of the foot of the bed. No Eleanor. Sarah clumped through the house, searching her mom's room, the bathroom, the kitchen, all the time, calling Eleanor's name with her new horrible voice. The garage was the only place she hadn't looked. She used the kitchen entrance, but doorknobs were getting difficult to manage. Finally, after a few desperate minutes of fiddling, she was in the darkened garage. Eleanor, she called again. Her jaw was stiff, and it was getting harder and harder to form words. Eleanor's name became as Eleanor. Maybe the robot girl was hiding it from her on purpose. Maybe it was some kind of joke or game. She looked at the ceiling high storage cabinet against the back wall of the garage. It seemed like a good hiding place. With some difficulty, she grabbed the handle of the cabinet door and pulled. It was an avalanche. Clear plastic bags holding different objects with different weights and sizes tumbled out of the cabinet and fell to the floor with a dull, sickening thud. Sarah looked at the floor. At first, her brain couldn't even process what she saw. One bag contained a human leg, another a human arm. There were not only the body parts of an adult, and then didn't appear to be the result of an accident. Blood pooled on the bottom of the bags, but the limbs had been severed neatly as if in a surgical application. Another bag, stifled with bloody, snake like entrails and what appeared to be a liver, slid up from the cabinet shelf and landed on the floor with a wet splat. Why are there body parts in her garage? Sarah didn't fully understand until she saw the small bag that held a familiar looking potato shaped nose. She screamed, but the sound that came out of her was like the squealing of a car's brakes. Behind her came a metallic, kinkling laugh. Sarah's lower body was almost immobile, but she dragged herself around to face Eleanor. I made your wish come true, Sarah. The pretty robot said with another metallic giggle, and in return, Sarah noticed something she'd never seen on Eleanor before, a heart-shaped button just like below Eleanor's throat that was a double of Sarah's heart-shaped pendant. Eleanor laughed again. Dana pushed the heart-shaped button. She jerked and shook, but she also visibly softened, her silver finish turning the pinkish fade of Caucasian skin. In a matter of moments, she was a dead ringer for Sarah, the old Sarah, the real Sarah, the Sarah who, looking back in it, had been so bad looking after all. The Sarah who had been spent away way too much time worrying about her appearance. Abby had been right. She had been right about a lot of things. Eleanor pulled an old pair of Sarah's jeans, one of her sweaters, and her tennis shoes. Well, you certainly made my wishes come true, Eleanor said, smiling with Sarah's old smile. She pulled the button that opened the garage door. Sunlight flooded the room, and Sarah, gave a little wave, then skipped out into the sunshine and down the sidewalk. Sarah's tears filled with a different clinking and clacking. She couldn't control her movements. Different rusted metal parts disconnected from her and fell clattering to the floor. She was falling apart, collapsing into an ugly trash heap, a hideous, useless collection of garbage to be thrown away and forgotten. In an old mirror propped against the garage wall, she saw herself. She was no longer a pretty girl or a girl at all. She didn't resemble a human of any kind. She was nothing but a rusty, dirty pile of junk. She felt silent. She felt sad, then felt scared, and then she felt nothing at all. One more story to go, and we all know what that is. One of the most popular stories in the Fazbear Frights series.